Lights, camera, action.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another review, and today we're going to be talking about Passenger. So essentially this movie follows this couple who kind of pack up their life and they kind of go on the whole van life thing. And one night while on the road, they run across this accident, and then with that, this so-called entity called the Passenger essentially ends up following them. So far, May has been this really incredible month where it's just been really great horror films, one right after another, and this is one that, just like the rest of them with Obsession and Hokum and all those, I was really looking forward to. Is it actually as good and as scary as the trailers made it out to be? Well, we're going to talk about that. Starting off with some of the positives that I really enjoyed about this movie, one being I think the concept of this movie is really interesting. I think it's a really cool concept, and I think it's this idea and concept that you could really do a lot with. I think this whole idea of essentially it's like a haunted house movie, but on the road. Like essentially the road is haunted, or the couple or whoever's on the road gets tagged by this so-called passenger, and they become the ones that are haunted. And so it's like there's no escape no matter where you go, which I thought was, like I said, it's a really cool idea. And it is kind of something a little bit different from the typical everyday haunted house, possession, demon things, whatever you want to call it, movies that we get, all the time. Plus, I love the idea of a road trip horror movie. I thought, if they're done correctly, they can always be a lot of fun. And it's one of those things in that type of genre that we don't really get anymore. So adding this type of concept onto a road trip movie, I think, like I said, that's just a really great idea. I think this movie's beautifully shot. This is done by a director that I really enjoy most of his work. Like he did The Autopsy of Jane Doe and Troll Hunter and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and Last Voyage of the Demeter, which I'm a big fan of, that nobody else seemed to like. Everyone thought it was crap, but I really actually enjoyed that movie. So I know without a doubt this guy is a very capable filmmaker. So when I saw he was the one that was going to helm this movie, I was really on board for it, because I knew a lot of it was going to have that great creep factor and a lot of that great camera work like I was talking about. And this movie absolutely has that great camera work. There is two scenes in this movie that are really well done. There's one, for example, where one of our characters is leaving a gym and walking through a parking lot, and the way that the camera is moving around her, I love how in certain ways it will go like halfway and then turn around and halfway, and then sometimes it will go all the way around. And it does a great thing where it does a really good job of building. It's supposed to build this tension and does a great job with that. And like I said, it's very appealing to the eye, but it does a great thing to where, every time the camera turns back around, the van is farther away than what it was before. So that was a really great, just appealing shot to look at. And another one is later on in the movie where her and her significant other are outside of the van trying to watch a film on a projector screen outside. And the way that whole scene is shot, with seeing something behind like the canvas area where the screen is at, and then like seeing the face come through that, and like there's a great scene where there's no light and she's flashing the projector around the woods for lighting, and like the way that it leads to certain things and it shows certain things. Don't want to give anything away. All that was really visually appealing, and it's got hints of that director's other work in here, and I knew it wasn't going to be in good hands because of him. I just wish there was more of that in this movie, which I'll get into later. But there are great hints of his other work and things that I know he can bring to this movie in here. Like I said, I just wish there was more of that. But those two scenes in particular are really great, really beautifully shot and just really appealing to look at. I do really think the whole legend of this passenger, like I said, is really cool. It goes right along with the concept, like how our characters will start to pick up on these signs and how these the people back in the day used to communicate and stuff with other people about how there's danger, or you've been marked for anything like that, or don't go this way or go this way. I think all that stuff is really interesting. And unfortunately, I think that is probably all of my positives for this movie. As the time grew closer to go see this movie, yes, I was excited, but there was a part of me that was worried that this could easily be a generic horror film, and I was really hoping it wasn't going to go that route, given the streak we'd been on so far. I didn't see the full trailer or anything for it. I just saw the extended little teaser trailer that they did, and that alone sold me. I was like, whoa. I was like, this could be something really cool. And so I got a little worried as I walked into it, and unfortunately, yeah, this movie it's just okay. Like I just mentioned with those two in particular scenes that I really enjoyed, overall this movie lacks no tension. I was never scared. I was never on the edge of my seat. I never felt any creepiness throughout this entire movie, which is so disappointing because of this director's other work. If you look at something like The Autopsy of Jane Doe, for example, I think that movie absolutely oozes atmosphere and dread and tension. And I was really hoping that was going to kind of bleed over into this movie. And unfortunately, there was none of that. None of that in this movie at all, at least in my opinion. I do feel like the first act is a lot stronger than the second act of the movie. I feel like our whole setup and our whole like introduction to these characters and the whole thing that happens at the beginning is a great way of introducing the story and kind of putting us on this ride, which really, like I said, is a great concept that really should be like, okay, I'm in for a really intriguing story. But sadly, the more the movie goes on, especially into the second half, it becomes that traditional, typical, tropey horror movie that we've seen a million times with the cheap jump scares and the loud noises and all that stuff. So it's really, like I said, it's just nothing there, or really no new substance there. Sadly, it even takes that typical route of, oh, we have to go find somebody that's going to explain the whole thing to us so we know the legend behind this character or this entity or whatever, and that way we know how to defeat it and whatnot. And it's just, I don't know, it just kind of made me sink in my seat a little bit. It just left me like disappointed because I was expecting so much more from this caliber of director. Even how they go about with the look of the entity in this movie, I think when it's not shown like head on, I think it looks so much better and it's so much more effective. Like they have the whole thing of keeping him like in the background where you see him in like tail lights or certain lights, and it's just like a blink and a miss it thing, or be going by in another car and you'll see him for a split second. Or just keeping him in the shadows overall. I think when you're doing it like that, it's a lot more effective, because when we kind of start to see this entity like full on, it just loses a lot of its luster and its steam and really takes away a lot of the creepiness that you were trying to build, or a lot of the tension that you were trying to go for. And unfortunately, the way that it looks, it's not all that, scary or anything. So it really kind of takes away all of what you were really going for. I think if you would have chosen to keep him in that aesthetic of those, seeing him in certain lights or blink and miss it or shadows, things like that, it would have really helped you in the long run. It would really, I think it would have built more of that tension. I think it would have helped push that creep factor a little bit that I know that this director is capable of, but sadly, that's just not where we went. And like I mentioned a second ago, I was hoping for a little bit more in the scare department. I was hoping they wouldn't rely on the cheap jump scares, loud noises. And that's pretty much what all this movie is. Like I said, it builds no tension, at least it did to me. So all the jump scares you could see coming a mile away, the music swells down, it gets really silent and then looks one way, try to exvert your expectations, then boom, there's a scare there. That's pretty much what all the scares are in this movie, sadly, and I was hoping for just so much more. And it's really the same way with our lead couple. I honestly, I did buy into them as a couple. I think the two actors have great chemistry on screen. I do believe that they are this couple. But the thing is, though, you get little background hints of, like, where they came from, why they are doing what they're doing now, like going on the road and doing all that stuff, and, like, their kind of family backgrounds and whatnot. But other than that, you kind of don't know anything about them. There's really nothing fleshed out about their characters. They really have no really arcing, overall arc in their character development at all. So honestly, as the movie goes, you don't really care about them. You're just kind of like, yeah, they're there. I mean, yeah, I don't want to see anything happen to them, but for the most part, you're like, I don't really care. It was just these very hollow, surface level characters that, other than, like I said, the little bit of stuff that we got, there was really nothing there to really make you care, which really is unfortunate. And I don't mean to keep comparing this movie to The Autopsy of Jane Doe, for example, but, in that movie, it was just pretty much the father, the son, and the girlfriend. But in the amount of time that they're going through this autopsy, you learn more about the father and the son than you do than the two characters in this movie. And not only that, I feel like you care so much more about those characters in that movie than easily in this movie. So I know that's there. I know it's capable of doing. I just wanted to care more about these characters. I just wanted something to really kind of, hook me into them. And sadly, we just didn't get that at all. And if I'm being completely honest, I feel that the little teaser trailer we got for this movie is really better than the entire movie overall. I feel like that alone could have just been this little teeny short film that they put out on YouTube or something, and that would have been a lot more effective than really essentially everything else in this movie. Honestly, that's really about it for this review. There's not really a lot to talk about because there's not really much in the movie to talk about, at least not anything that I really enjoyed all that much, but that could just be a me thing. In this month of May where we've had like these pretty big horror movies and stuff, I started to question myself, did like Hokum and Obsession really set the bar so high that, maybe I was kind of like, yeah, going to this movie, I was, hoping for better things. And even though I was, but at the end of the day, I feel like Passenger is such a generic, everyday horror movie that we get tons of all the time. So nothing made it stand out. Really nothing made it special. Like I said, the concept is fantastic. I love the concept. I love the idea of the entity. I love all of that. I just really wish it was in a much better movie. Because I enjoyed the director's other work so much, I expected some of that, like I mentioned earlier, that creepiness and the scariness and tension that he brought from his other movies to this movie. And while there are hints of that in here, it's not a lot by any means. It's very few and far between. And like I said, those two scenes that I mentioned earlier, that's really about the best two scenes of tension that we get in this entire movie. I've even seen reports where they are calling this really maybe his scariest movie and maybe possibly his best movie. I don't see that at all. Personally, I don't see that at all. I feel like his other films have been a lot better than this, but like I said, that's just a me thing. So unfortunately, May didn't go into that full swing of bangers like I was really hoping it would, but can't win them all, but next week is The Back Room, so hopefully we're going to end on a high note, and that will take us out of May. And for the most part, hopefully May will be a pretty massive, huge hit for horror fans. But this is a Paramount movie. I would definitely recommend waiting until streaming because it's just one of those movies you could throw on at home and easily enjoy at the house. There's nothing special about it, like I said, to make you go run out and see it in the theater immediately. There's a lot of people that might really enjoy it. Like I said, there's types of movies that really work for different people. Again, beauty of art. If you really enjoy this movie, that's awesome. More power to you. But for me, it's one that I would not recommend running out to the theater to see immediately. I would say definitely wait until streaming or wait until VOD or something like that. If you're going to go out to the movies this weekend, I would definitely recommend seeing either Obsession or Hokum if you've not seen the two of those. Especially Obsession. Obsession is just so layered and deep, and there's a lot of stuff in that movie that I'm thinking about actually doing a spoiler review on that. So maybe keep an eye out for that. I'm hoping to have that out soon. But those movies I would definitely prioritize seeing over this one. But thank you, everybody. That is my review for Passenger. If this is the review that you're finding me on, please come over to the channel and check out all my other 2026 reviews so far. If you have seen Passenger, please comment below and let me know what you have thought about it. And if you've seen the director's other work, please comment below and let me know what your favorite movie by this director is. I'm very curious. And as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That way I can see all of you in the next one. Thank you so very, very much.